Hello, my beautiful class. Welcome to English 102B, choosing a topic. As you know, we have a research paper coming up, and you also have a Dropbox assignment to choose your topic. And so we're just going to discuss the genre of the research paper. And I feel like this is a genre that comes with a lot of baggage for many people. They just go, "Oh, research paper. Oh my gosh, are you kidding me?" That's not what a research paper is about. But I can understand why you're coming from that emotional place. So, our objectives today. Students will be able to reflect on their own opinions and biases about research papers. Got to know where we are. Identify the purpose of a research paper, and I'm talking the true purpose of a research paper, not like torturing students. That's not the actual purpose of a research paper, although I can understand why you might feel that way. And then identify possible topics for a research paper based on your interests. A research paper is a project that you should be like, yes, now I can really get into that thing that I love. So our first activity, hopefully you have your Dropbox assignment ready. If you don't, pause the video, go get your Dropbox assignment. Awesome, Dropbox assignment had. Our first question on the Dropbox assignment is a pre-writing. So this is just your best guess, your feelings, what you think, your opinion. I want to know what you already know. And it says, write your best guess as to the purpose of a research paper. As to the purpose of a research paper, is being able to write a research paper important? Why has the research paper persisted as an assignment? Pause video, answer the question, come right back. All right, the purpose of a research paper. This is going to be a question you answer in the video. Check all that apply. Torturing students. Explain a series of events. Show relationships between ideas. Look up boring stuff. Write boringer stuff. Yes, I did, said boringer. Practice finding reliable information about a topic. All right, let's go over these answers. Torture students. No, it's not. I don't want to torture you. I just want you to build writing skills that will help you in the future. And the research paper is a really viable genre for that. Even if you don't like this topic, it's important to be able to write to different audiences because you're not always going to be writing to someone who loves to read your fan fiction or who wants to know your opinion about such and such. Sometimes you have to present an impartial view on either past events or facts and arrange them in a way your reader will understand. Explain a series of events. Yes, that's one of the ways you can write your research paper. Show relationship between ideas. Also true. Research papers are great for showing relationships between ideas. No, research papers are not about looking up boring stuff. If you think what you're looking up is boring, your reader will think it is boring too. You need to find something that engages you, something you love to talk about. Just think about, what do you talk about with your friends? Is it your favorite music? Is it your favorite TV show? Is it like the brilliant Shakespeare cover that Tom Hiddleston did with the Henry V on the BBC last week? Because that's what I talk to about my friends. Anyway, so write boring or stuff. False. If you're bored writing it, your readers are going to be bored reading it. Practice finding reliable information about a topic. Yes! I want you to be able to distinguish which information is reliable online and which is less than reliable, and that's going to be covered in your lessons for this assignment. The purpose of a research paper, everyone give me a drum roll, is to place information in context for the reader. Context is an important word here. Context means the larger picture. Let's say that I take a walk to the store and I'm going to meet my friend there so we can pick up a sandwich, and I'm late for my friend and she gets mad at me. So if I just say, oh yeah, I'm sorry I'm late, I just felt like showing up late because I'm a mean person, That's not a very good story. But if I say, oh yeah, I'm sorry I was late, there was a rainstorm and then my boot had a hole in it, so now my socks are completely wet, then that's a totally different story. Those facts in the story that I added are really important to help understand the story. You get to decide what facts are important for your research paper. For example, if I want to write a research paper about hamsters, totally possible, there are a couple different things I know about hamsters. For example, hamsters love to eat small vegetables. Woo! Cool fact, Ms. Gibson. Second fact, hamsters can weigh up to 15 pounds. Cool fact, Ms. Gibson. Why is this important? What you're going to show the reader is how these facts relate to one another. That is context. So I could say in my research paper, if hamsters don't get the required nutrients, they will never reach their ideal weight. So you see, I took both of those facts and combined them into a context that makes sense. It shows the relationship between those two facts. And that's what you're doing for your reader. It's like you have all of these different elements and you say, okay, what story do I want to tell? Which of these facts are important for my reader to be able to see what I see is important about this topic? A research paper is like telling a story where you get to show the readers why certain details matter more than others. Like my little story before, it might be an important detail that, it was raining and then I had wet socks because there were holes in my boots. If I decide to leave that detail out, it completely changes the story because it just looks like I'm a jerk friend. So everything is a story, even facts. You can totally change your reader's perception of history or of information depending on what you decide to use and what you decide to leave out. For example, the life of Susan B. Anthony. What kind of family did she have? What was her education like? What was the political atmosphere at the time? Susan B. Anthony is often credited with becoming the poster girl for the women's rights movement to allow women to vote. So when you choose a topic, here are a couple of categories that might be useful to you. I know a lot of you, it's kind of hard to narrow down a topic because you don't want it to be too big and you don't want it to be too small. Just keep in mind that for this research paper, you're going to want to be able to expand on what you want to talk about. So, although you can't talk about the history of the entire world, you can say, I want to talk about the history of this one thing. And think about focusing a camera so you have just the picture you want. Even though you could take a really large picture of maybe your whole house, you just want to focus on one room of the house. So, a historical event. You could talk about World War II. There are books written about World War II. I would say that is too large of a topic for your research paper. Remember, we're looking for something that eventually ends up being 3 to 6 pages. But could you talk about what events led to World War II? Could you talk about, I think Hitler is a little bit too big of a topic. But if you wanted to talk about a specific thing about Hitler or about World War II, that's fine. But you want to focus in on one of those elements of it instead of trying to paint with such a broad brush to get everything. A historical figure, like I talked about Susan B. Anthony, we're going to talk about her again. Technology. Technology is so vast. Not only could you talk about technology we have today, like, oh, they have this new kind of screen with the iPhone where you can tap it or you can like press harder and then the phone does something else. Or virtual reality. Whatever you want. If there's a piece of technology that you love, you can get into it. Animals. A lot of you wrote about animals for your essays, and I think that's a great topic for a research paper as well, to take a purely informative tone and say, hey, this is all the information about this animal that's important, and it's important because now we understand this about the animal, or how this animal thrives, or how it's related to other animals in its ecosystem. There are a lot of different ways you can take that topic. The history of, I know in the lessons the example was the history of flight and they decided to focus on air balloons. You can take the history of something anywhere. Like, you want to take the history of animation. Okay, that's really broad. What about the history of Pixar? Like, when did Pixar come around? There are also books written about the history of Pixar, so obviously you'd be summarizing, but just taking one element and deciding to dive deep into it. You are the boss. You get to decide. So you get to tell the readers which details are important. The way that we're going to help you decide which details are important is to brainstorm 5 questions about your topic. These questions are ones that you might have authentically, or they're ones you might already know the answers to because you're such an aficionado. That means a really big fan of whatever you're writing about. Questions are the heart of learning. As soon as you ask a question, your brain prepares a spot for the answer to the question. Like if I say, why do seals have feet that look kind of like hands? You'll have to look it up. I don't even know. That's a genuine question. But once you ask a question, the answer becomes more important. These questions are kind of specific. You can't ask a yes or no question to fuel your research paper because, what are you going to say? Was Susan B. Anthony a woman? Yes. Done. You need a little more substance than that. So these should be open-ended questions that you can really explore your topic a little bit more. For example, these questions should help you give context to the information. So I have a few examples up here. Susan B. Anthony, what was her family like? So you can see that's not just a yes or no question or a question that has a factual answer. I can take it a lot of different ways. I can say, oh, her dad was like this, or her mom was like this, or she had this many brothers and sisters, or actually she grew up as an orphan, and get into her story a little bit with that question. It's not a question that has a one-word answer that you can just look up the fact and you're done. I'm able to take that question and kind of dive into it a little bit. What was the political climate at the time? Political climate is like saying the environment. Like our political climate, whenever there's a presidential election, gets kind of heated because they have all these candidates running and people say, oh, I want this candidate or I want that candidate. So what was hers like? What was the political atmosphere? What was happening during her era that might have influenced her? What kind of an education did she have? I think it's important to talk about what kind of an education did she have, instead of just saying, was she educated? Because there are a lot of different kinds of education, especially as you venture deeper into the past, whether you have people who are studying at home, or maybe they had a hired teacher like a governess, or maybe they went to public school, or maybe they went to a boarding school, and all of these different things. As I answer what kind of an education Susan B. Anthony had, I can say, well, she had this kind of an education, but other people during her age also had this kind of an education, to give the reader that context to see why these details are important. How did she become, How did she become the lead spokesperson? This is a story in and of itself, about when did someone take a personal journey to become a leader. But I didn't just say, when did she become the lead spokesperson? Who was the person who helped her? Those are questions you can answer with just the facts. How did she become the lead spokesperson implies that there were a series of events that you, the author, gets to put in order for the reader. And then another how question, how did she accomplish her goals? That, again, the how implies that there's a process that you're going to explain to the reader. And depending on what you want to emphasize, you might explain it differently. For example, if I have a personal opinion that Susan B. Anthony is like the greatest human being ever, which actually isn't my personal opinion, but let's plan that. Then when I talk about how did she become the lead spokesperson, I might emphasize her personal characteristics and her determination and her political sway. and that helped her become the lead spokesperson. I might not talk as much about the facts that, well, actually she had these kind of people supporting her and these were her other tactics that were successful. I might tell this story to showcase what I think is important, like her own prowess and intelligence and, savvy for the political sphere. The story you tell in your research paper is up to you. You are showing the reader, here are the facts that I think are important about this topic and why. So for your assignment, there's a Dropbox assignment. The first question is the one we did at the beginning of the video. The second question is to write your topic, and then you need to write 5 open-ended questions about your topic. Remember our objectives for class today? Students will be able to reflect on their own opinions and biases about research papers, identify the purpose of a research paper, and identify possible topics for the research paper based on their interest. Thanks so much. Have a great day.